what do we want from exercise? Huh? In the widest sense, what would we say that a practice of an exercise, maybe you have your own practice?
Breathing.
Sorry?
Breathing.
Breathing. Well-being.
Flexibility.
I'm not going to write it down. Okay, it doesn't matter. Flexibility. Who says that? Flexibility. Yeah, we want flexibility. Actually, we want an appropriate amount of flexibility. And an appropriate amount of flexibility is what we need for natural movement. Yeah, there's no great advantage in flexibility beyond what we need for natural movement. And there is possibly a trade-off between flexibility and sinew strength, because we have yoga is very popular, for example, and yoga works with some I would call quite extreme movements, which are very easy to do for people who are hypermobile or have weak sinew strength, flaccid sinews, which can lead to excessive movement, or as the risk of leading to excessive movement of the joints. We now know that. So appropriate levels of flexibility, but perhaps not more than we need to do everything that we need to do. What else? So flexibility. Sorry? Balance. Yeah, balance is really important at all stages of life, but particularly as we age, as we'll see, that is something that we start to lose good balance, and that leads to all kinds of problems. The most obvious one, of course, falling over and breaking bones and breaking your hips, which is an enormous personal cost, and it's an enormous financial cost. Costs the NHS over £1 billion a year dealing with falls in elderly people. What else? So anything else? Strength. Did somebody say strength? Yeah, strength to carry out daily activities and to maintain strength, because you probably know, and we are varying ages here, but everybody's getting older by definition. So we're all aware from really quite a young age we start to lose muscle. It's called sarcopenia. We start to lose muscle bulk that's replaced by fat. It is inevitable, but the rate at which sarcopenia develops is not inevitable. And the more we lose muscle as we age, the weaker we get. So we can't do simple things. We can't lift and carry and anything else we need strength for. So strength is really important. Yeah. More than that?
Quality of sleep.
Sleep, yes, improving sleep. That's great, yeah. Stamina, yeah.
I was going to tack on particularly...
Okay, so you reckon this kind of exercise increases your testosterone? It may do, I'm not saying it doesn't. That's what you're suggesting.
Any minimal amount of exercise.
Yeah.
In the case of men.
Yeah, libido, actually, both men and women. Yeah. But this is all very physical. What else? Going a bit wider. What do you do?
Concentration, maybe, really?
Yeah, focus and concentration, yes. I'm surprised you're not saying, especially the yogis here, not saying things like emotional calmness, lack of, countering stress, emotional resilience, maybe an awakening to greater awareness. Greater awareness. I don't like to use the word spiritual, but along those lines. Why should that not all be wrapped up in our practice? So we have the big vision. So I wrote down strength, health, agility, balance and alignment, rootedness. Rootedness we'll talk about means physical rootedness and emotional rootedness, flexibility, free flow we'll talk about, proprioception. Do you know this term? Proprioception is awareness of where all the bits of our body are in space. And it's very easy to become dissociated from our body, particularly as we age. Proprioception, for example, it declines with aging, but it also declines with alcohol, which is why in the United States, if they stop you and see you've been drinking, they ask you to close your eyes and touch the tip of your nose, thank goodness, with your finger, that's proprioception. And proprioception is arises from, or can be developed through full awareness of the body. So greater proprioception, integration of mind and body, a balanced autonomic nervous system I'll talk about, healthy breathing, physical, mental and emotional resilience. And all these into age, continue as into aging. So I'd like to introduce what I think is a really useful Chinese classification of exercise. It's used in the martial arts, waijia and neijia. And waijia is external practice, external martial arts. Neijia is internal martial arts. So waijia, this is what we normally think of when we think of Chinese martial arts. We've seen all those movies. We might have gone to a Shaolin show. There's lots of, trained from the age of 6 or 7 to fly through the air and kick and possibly smash bricks with their head and fight with all kinds of weapons. The training is hard. Young British boys can now go off to Shaolin and for 3-month trainings. They wake them up at 5 o'clock in the morning. They run 1,200 steps down the mountain to the river with heavy clay pots, fill them with water, run up again. This is hard training. This is external work. It has other meanings which I won't go into, slightly more specialist aspects of martial art. But it roughly corresponds to what most people in the West think of as exercise. We think of exercise, nearly all the exercise the government promotes and is publicly promoted belongs to this external form. You get breathless, you sweat, yes? You run, you lift weights. This is all external practice. And what are its advantages? Well, you get aerobically fit. That means your lungs and heart function better. You get muscular development, particularly if you do weight training. And you beef up and you might even get a six-pack. This is really important, has a rapid effect on moving qi and blood. So here is this idea, this key idea that I introduced at the beginning, that the body, that qi, energy, and blood have to flow freely in the body. When they don't flow, when they become stagnant, broadly 2 things can happen. We get sick. Certain kinds of illness come from lack of healthy flow of qi and blood, and it affects us emotionally. We get gloomy, we get depressed, we get irritable, we feel stagnant, okay? And external type exercise is very, very quick at shifting that. So you might feel pretty rubbish, sluggish physically, unhappy mentally. You go and do some vigorous exercise that gets you sweating and breathing, and you just feel great. Yes? Has a very rapid effect, faster than drugs. So it has rapid mood-altering effects and rapid effects of changing the way the body feels. But it has disadvantages. It's more the province of younger people. It's hard to do really vigorous external exercise as you age. And so in the Chinese tradition in martial arts, young people love external exercise. They don't like internal exercise too much. It's too slow. It's too quiet. Yes? They love to really bounce around and move, but there's greater risk of injury. And so quite often in the Chinese martial arts tradition, at a certain age, people, whether they get injured or not, they graduate to the quieter, more deep forms of internal exercise, which I'll talk about. The effects of moving qi and blood, in other words, lifting the mood and making the body feel good, tend to be short-lived. So run, 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 everything flows. Half an hour later, everything slows down again. And this is the root of exercise addiction. people who have a lot of stagnation, what we call stagnation, that means emotional stuckness, probably for emotional reasons, start to depend on exercise to make them feel good. And they then have to start increasing the dose because the effect wears off, and that can, at its extreme, lead to exercise addiction. And the exercise, whilst ameliorating how people feel, is not dealing with the root of the condition. And in excess, external exercise is harmful to the body. As Ge Hong, a great 3rd century alchemist, said, the body should always be exercised, yet even in exercise, do not go to extremes. So what do we know about excessive exercise? We know that beyond a certain point, the longevity benefits of exercise start to reduce. There have been quite a lot of studies on this. Copenhagen jogging study. Jogging, what they call moderately, it would kill me, but you know, for a few hours a week at slow or moderate speed, has a dramatic effect on increasing longevity, 5 or 6 years. But once it goes beyond that, once people start running more than that, it starts to reduce again. It doesn't mean it actually reduces longevity, but the benefit is reduced. Extreme external exercise like marathon running and extreme cycling can damage the heart, scars the heart, damages the coronary arteries, and can cause real problems. Something like 50% of Tour de France, ex-Tour de France cyclists have heart damage from what they did. The Chinese view is that a heart optimized for high-level aerobic activity, when you stop, let's say at the age of 50 or 55, you start to reduce that aerobic activity, you end up with a heart that is optimized for high-level aerobic activity, but not optimized for a quieter life. As you know, with that kind of exercise, the heartbeat slows down, can be down into the 40s or the 50s. And it can have massive effects on weakening the immune system, and particularly harmful effects on young women. Has hormonal effects, causes periods to stop, and so on. Sun Tzu Miao again, the way of nurturing life is to constantly strive for minor exertion, but never become greatly fatigued and force what you cannot endure. So there's a Goldilocks effect, and here's a really interesting study they did. They took a bunch of women, divided them into 3 groups. One did light exercise in the gym several times a week, I forget the details. Second group did moderate exercise in the gym, and the third did a lot of exercise, 6 days a week. And through the study, all the groups increased the level of intensity and the time they did the exercise. And afterwards all benefited. But what they were actually looking at, because they fitted them again with movement monitors, they're looking at overall movement. And what they found is that the women who did the most exercise in the gym moved the least overall, because they went to the gym, worked out, felt knackered, sat around for the rest of the day, took the bus or the car instead of walking, saw the stairs and the lift, thought, I'll take the lift, I've done my exercise for the day. Whereas those who did the least and the middle had more movement overall, because the right amount of exercise makes you feel vigorous. When you see stairs, you think, oh, I feel like climbing those stairs. When you get ready to go into town, you think, I'd prefer to bicycle, I'd prefer to walk, because that's how my body feels. So not too much exercise. Neijia, this is the other type, external, internal. Internal exercise includes Qigong, plus the 3 internal martial arts, Tai Chi, Bagua, and Xing Yi. And I would say it's fair to call yoga internal exercise. The Chinese call it Brahmin Qigong. Pilates, Alexander technique, I don't know, other things as well. They would all belong to the internal tradition. And the internal tradition trains for mental stillness. That's a very, very key aspect. What we do with our minds, full body awareness, alignment, softness, relaxation, core stability, balance, rootedness, fluid stretching, soft power. Sounds good, doesn't it? I'm going to advertise my class after this. Full body, mind, breath integration. The unity of what's called Jing Qi Shen. 3 Chinese terms. Jing roughly means the body, Qi roughly means the energy and the breath, and Shen means the mind and spirit. Full integration of body, mind, and breath. Its advantages. We develop elasticity of the fascia, which I'll talk about, the connective tissue. Not focusing on muscles so much, but on fascia. It has a prolonged effect on moving qi and blood. So why is that? Okay, so does everybody understand? Sorry, I don't mean to sound patronizing, it's obvious. We can all understand this idea that free flow is healthy, yes? That's pretty simple. So we could say there are 2 ways. There's the external way and the internal way of achieving it. The external way is to do aerobic exercise where we pump the heart and lungs, and that pumps the blood. Okay, let's think just Western medicine, forget qi for a moment, pumps the blood through the 6,000 kilometers of blood vessels we have in our body. Right, right into the microcirculation, because every cell in the body has to be near a blood supply. So we know that. We get hot, and we might get red in the face. The blood is flowing freely. So that's one way of promoting qi and blood circulation. But as I pointed out, that's great when you're doing it, but then when you rest, that effect can wear off. There's a second way, the opposite way. And of course, as always, we need a bit of both. The opposite way is, take this for example. Do this for 20 minutes, okay? Does this seem like a way of promoting free flow of qi and blood because the body's not moving? It is. In fact, you can do this for 20 minutes and get really warm and really hot, because what the idea is that this weird concept of qi, energy, its nature is to flow. The nature of the healthy body is to have free flow. And rather than beefing up the activity of the lung and heart to force the flow, the job is actually to dissolve obstructions in the free flow. Let qi and blood do what it wants to do anyway, what its nature is to do. And how do we do that? We soften and relax. We soften and relax. And as we stand in this meditative qigong posture, it's a particular practice, and start to feel pain and discomfort in different parts of the body, we breathe in and out and we try and dissolve and open and relax it. So this is approaching it in a different way. And if we achieve a higher level of practice, internal softness and relaxation, that's something we begin after assiduous practice to carry through the rest of the day. So the effect is prolonged. It doesn't wear off when you stop exercising. So it can have prolonged mood-altering effects, minimal risk of injury, can be practiced at any age, and has massive health benefits, as we'll see. Disadvantages, I mentioned, often too slow for young people. We all need a mixture of both. We all need yin and yang. So if we just do very soft yin yoga, or we do very soft Tai Chi, we don't have enough vigorous movement. So if we do these very quiet practices, somewhere in our lives we need to add in vigorous movement. We need to run, or we need to cycle, or we need to play tennis, or whatever it is, dance, whatever it is we like to do. And another risk, it can encourage too much turning inwards, which I'll talk about in a minute. Too much self-preoccupation.